Hello and welcome to the Computer Crowd. My name is Connor and today we will be installing Active Directory as well as doing a little bit of replication between two servers. Now, Active Directory is very complex and can be very big, but we're just going to go over a basic little overview and show you the basics of installing and a little bit of configuring. It's pretty simple to install. You just go to your domain controller, which we got DC01 here. Let's get all of our notification or tasks out of the task menu. We'll go to Manage, Add Roles and Features. Once again, you should probably read this portion of the screen, but we're just going to skip it. It's going to be a role-based or feature-based installation. Server selection. And we're going to go to Active Directory Domain Services. It's going to say, hey, you need to install these features. Add the features. Next. Next. It's just going to tell you a little bit of information about Active Directory. Next. And we're going to restart the destination server automatically if required. And then click Install. Now while that's installing, I'm going to go over to the other domain controller and do the same thing. So we'll go through it one more time. Manage. Add roles or features. Next. Next. Make sure you got your right server. Active Directory Domain Services. Add features. Next, next, next. Install. We'll probably have to restart this server manually. Go back over to DC01. Now we'll close this. Now you're going to notice that you need to promote this server to a domain controller, which we are going to do. Now, since this is our first domain controller, I'm going to add a new forest, a root domain name. I'm just going to do now. I actually do own this domain, so I can use it with no problem. Now, the way Active Directory works is your forest can only be as high as your lowest domain functional level. If that makes sense the way I said it. Basically, if your domain is 2012 R2, your forest has to be 2012 R2. If your domain was 2008, your forest would have to be 2008. I'm going to check on our second domain controller while we're waiting on that. It's still installing, so we'll go back. Just a nifty little fact, when I'm shooting or recording any of these videos, or live streams or anything, it gets extremely hot in this office. I don't know if, while we're waiting for this, let's just go over, I can show you some temperatures here. The ambient temp is 27 degrees, which is 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 80.6 to be exact, which is 10 degrees higher or hotter than I keep it in this house. So you can see it's fairly warm in that. Okay, and now that we've we'll go back to what we were actually doing. I'm just gonna, since I'm only gonna have 2012 R2 servers on this domain, we're just gonna leave those as is. You create your directory services restore mode password. Next. Now, in order to have Active Directory, you do have to have DNS. And since I'm installing this, it's going to install the DNS for me automatically. Let's leave the host name the same. Now these are going to be your all your database and sysvol and stuff location. Personally, I just leave that the same, especially if you're in a corporation this way, unless you have some specific policy that tells you where to put them. This way, when you have a new administrator come in, they know automatically this is where these items are, and they don't have to go searching for them. And we're just gonna click next. And you could automate the script for the next server, but we're just gonna do it manually. And just so you know, the server will reboot with this process. Okay, now everything's passed, so we will click install. Now that it's finally rebooted, let's log back in. As if you haven't noticed, you can already notice the difference in the login screen. And you got your domain /administrator. Once it gets logged in and you get all back up and running.
I learned to walk when I was 1 beneath the Oklahoma sun, and from that day I started taking my own route. I learned to read when I was 2, and I believed it all was true, too young to fill my mind with questions.
Now you can see that the work groups changed to string.co. and everything appears to be running like they're on the domain. You can go to Tools, go to Active Directory Users and Computers.
Cold night, starlight, we are not alone. Cold night,
See our domain controller there.
starlight,
Here's our built-in accounts.
not alone.
So let's go back over to the second domain controller, and you can see install's complete. So let's add it to the domain.
Said goodbye when I was 10 to Santa Claus and all his friends. I had to leave those childish stories all behind. But when they told me God was real, I just couldn't help.
Actually, what we need to do,
Question that was tugging
first we need to change our DNS servers,
was 11.
since this is a static assigned IP.
Everything was falling into place. I kept my mouth shut so I wouldn't rock the boat, because a kid who's fallen overboard is just too ashamed to float. And still the stars remain the same. Cold night, starlight, we are not alone. Cold night, starlight, we are not alone. We're together on our own. I learned to walk when I was 1, without a crutch to lean upon. I had to relearn everything. My legs were weak
And so we can clean the domain controller, or our first domain controller. We'll add this domain.
the last you'll read of me. Today I went to see a friend. His days are almost at an end. The doctors say he's got
Now, obviously, if you had a domain already set up and you were just adding another server to the domain or another computer, you would probably have your own, or different accounts. You would probably have already renamed the administrator account. But since we just did this, it's still administrator, so we're just going to click OK. We are now in the domain. Just like with any renaming or modification to that kind of stuff, you have to restart.
Cold night, starlight, we are not alone. Cold night, starlight, we are not alone. We're together.
And we could have probably gone through this process without actually adding it to the domain, but I figured I'd show you updating or upgrading a member server from the regular server to a domain controller.
Cold night, starlight, we are not alone. We're together on our own.
An example would be like, say you had a file server and you had 2 domain servers or domain controllers, but one of your domain controllers went out, and you needed to take your file server and make it a domain controller, at least temporarily, so that you had that redundancy. Or say you had a file server at a remote location and you had one domain controller at that remote location. Well, that one domain controller, say it failed, say, network card or something went out in it, and you needed a temporary domain controller. You'd create a file server or something like that. Do a domain controller, that way you could still have logins at that remote location. You'll see it's applying the security policy. It's actually applying the default security policy, default policy in general. If we go back to the server manager on DC01, tools, group policy management, wait for the snap-in to load. So loading the default. Default domain policy. And it's also, since it's a domain controller, it's gonna get the default domain controller policy also. Actually, it's not a domain controller yet. Sorry. It's just gonna get the default domain policy right now. Let's go back over to DC02. It's ready for us to log in. And you can see here is asking for us to log in to the actual server's administrator account. Well, we're not going to do that. We're going to go back. Other user. Now, if you type in just administrator, it'll change down here to DC02, which we want to log into the domain as the administrator account. You can see all my settings have changed because it's a different user account. While it's loading, we'll make a few changes. And you see our little window is showing back up. We're going to promote this server to a domain controller. Very similar to the last time. We're going to add a domain controller to an existing domain. There's our existing domain and our domain administrator credentials. And one thing you can do in like a remote site is you can make it a read-only domain controller. And that way you can lighten the load on your, say it's a remote site and you just want people to be able to log in via that domain controller without actually changing any of the user data on it. You do a read-only domain controller and they can actually use it it's just a read-only controller rather than one that actually updates users' data. Password. Now, if you were doing a remote site and you wanted to say it had a slow internet connection and you wanted to lighten the load of the data that it's got to sync from the main domain or from any other domain controller, you can actually create a install from media database. Basically, you're just copying a database to a USB drive or CD or whatever, and then you're importing that data into this new domain controller. That way it's got less to sync between the two servers. Or if you have, say you have a domain controller already at the site and you just want to replicate from that one, that way it's all internal replication rather than over a slow WAN link or something like that. You can choose the domain controller this way. I'm just going to choose any domain controller because there's only one. So once again, I'm going to leave all these as default. Review the options. It's going to check the prerequisites. And we're going to do install.
Was I drawn into your orbit, or were you drawn into mine? In any case, you've given me a new reason to shine. The circles we're revolving, spinning recklessly around, growing tighter by the moment, till the flash and then the sound, and in that moment,
you can see actually replicating the data from the other domain controller.
the brilliance of a multiplying sun, but even stars will one day fall. And I won't shed a tear, 'cause for a time we had it all.
And then you're going to be restarted as with the last install.
Until the moment that I saw you floating by. I don't know where you came from or the way the wind will blow. I only know I'll follow you no matter where you go. And when the candles start to fade, slowly we'll descend, but I will never be afraid. And even as we start to fall, I won't shed a tear, 'cause for a time we had it all. When I met you at the bus stop, I was waiting for a ride. Instead I found a future.
Now that you're rebooted, you can
all the roads that we have traveled through.
log in, and once again, you can see that you're logging into the domain user. Which I should have mentioned, you do lose your users that were on the domain controller, and you convert it over to a domain controller.
The time has come to fall. I won't shed a tear, 'cause for a time we had it all. For a time we had.
Okay, now that we've got our two domain controllers up, let's go back to where we were at the beginning, where I was going to add servers. So we'll go back to Server Manager on DC01, go to Manage, Add Servers, and now that we've got a domain set up, we can click Find Now and you can see both of our servers pop up. So I'm going to add DC02 to DC01 for all servers so we can see it. Now you can see that both of our servers are connected. One thing you should do, we'll go back and do, we already have it enabled on DC01. Back over to DC02. local server. Make sure remote management is enabled. So while we're at it, we'll add DC01 to DC02. Now we're going to go back over to DC01. You can see that everything's showing up right. This way you can actually just log into one server and install roles and features on the other servers without or from that one server. So I'm going to create a server group here. And both of those to my domain controllers group. And do the same on DC02. Okay, now let's bring up Active Directory users and computers. I'm going to try to make it so we can see the changes happening. Okay, so I don't want to use, say I don't want to use the default computers group, or OU. I'm going to create a new organizational unit. I'm going to name this pending devices. Now I've created it on DC01, so let's go over to DC02 and see if it's replicated yet. It has not. And there it is. So say I want to install, say I've got some special group policy assigned to the pending devices OU. And I want to make sure every computer that gets added to the domain automatically gets put in pending devices OU. Well, that's a fairly easy task. And what we're going to do is we're going to open PowerShell. Now you'll type redir cmp and put OU equals, so we're going to do pending devices. Pending devices, comma, DC, and OU stands for organizational unit, and DC I think stands for domain component. Don't quote me on that. DC strand, and then comma, DC, CO. So basically you're saying pending devices.strand.co. Then press enter, and you can see redirection was successful. Okay, so now say I want to do a basic employees organizational unit. Let's go and create a new organizational unit. Name it employees. Now say I've got employees in a sales department, so let's make another OU inside the employees OU as sales. Now when I create a user, or say I'm batch uploading users, and I just want to put them into the employees OU just to make sure they're in there and they get at least a base set of group policies assigned to them. So you can do that in a similar fashion. Reader user USR OU employees DC strand DC code. Helps if you type it in right. And now when you create a new employee, it'll go into the employees OU. Let's test out that this works. So we'll go back over to Hyper-V Manager on our main Hyper-V machine. And I've got this Windows 10 client here. I'm going to start it and connect to it. And let this machine boot up. Okay, so now we'll log in. Since I haven't attached it to the domain at all, I just still have my normal user login. Now I'm using a Windows 10 machine here. The process is similar in almost every version of Windows. But we're just going to go to System. At some point I do plan to have a Windows 7 and an 8.1 machine also running. We're going to change settings here under the computer name, domain, and workgroup settings. Now I'm going to rename this computer also. I'm going to name this Office 210. Let's name it Desktop. Room 210. Something like that. Change the domain. And okay. Click OK. One thing I forgot to mention when we were doing this is we need to go back into our DHCP settings. It's really hard to do when you only got half the screen. DHCP settings. We need to authorize the DHCP server. And then you can see that we got the green check marks. But we also need to go in go into our scope options and change our DNS servers. Since we'll add both of our domain controllers, 10, 200, 240, 10, and 10, 200, 240, 11. And both of those are DNS servers, or both of our domain controllers, which have DNS servers. So we'll go back to our Windows 10 client. Disable and re-enable the network on it. As you can see, we got both of our DNS servers. We should be able to ping the domain controller, which we can. And now we can click OK, and we shouldn't get any errors. Once again, you should have a different administrator account for this process, but for the sake of time, in these videos, I'm just using the regular administrator account. Welcome to the domain. And once again, you'll have to restart. Now we should go into pending devices. And you can see that new computer that we just added to the domain. Now let's say we'll get into group policies in a separate video, because that's a very big topic, and I gotta figure out how to shrink it down into something that we can use. But if you had, say you had an update, say your policy was that each new computer had to stay in pending devices for a week. That way that you can make sure they got all the updates. Or they were all up to date or something like that. Then you would just move them out of the pending devices into your other organizational unit. Let's go ahead and add a user. I'm going to cover users actually, we'll just cover users in a separate video because this video is getting pretty long. And I'll go over how to, bulk upload users and bulk change and stuff like that. It'll involve some scripts and some other cool little ways to do things in Windows. But until then, we will see you in the next video. Have a good one.
Thanks for watching our tutorial. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please join the forums at www.thecomputercrowd.net or click the I in the upper right hand corner.